Okay, so yeah, well, first of all, just thank you. Like, thank you so much for saying yes, and I just adore you so much.
Oh,
So
oh,
I'm so grateful to get to chat with you.
oh, that's so
And
sweet. Thank you. Likewise. Thanks for
oh,
having me.
thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to hear, well, introduce yourself. Like who you be.
Well, my name's Kristi Slager Salerno. I added the married name to the former last name, so we have three names now. And I am an embodiment coach. I am an actor and artist as well, but mostly now I focus on energy healing, embodiment, movement, self expression, helping people heal through those modalities.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's just how my journey, uh, um, where my road took me, really, is
Yeah.
to those things.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
How did you end up here? Like what set you on this path? Was there kind of a turning moment or things that led to where you
Mm.
are now and what you do?
Yeah, for sure. There absolutely was. So I was one of the many and one of the many that flocked to Los Angeles as an actor, to pursue an acting career.
Mhm.
And and I so loved that journey. And I honestly consider that part of my journey, my acting training, to be the first real healing modality I stepped into. Because
Mm.
for me, acting was such a healing thing to do, to tap into parts of myself that had been suppressed or that I wasn't expressing or connecting to in my real life, and giving myself permission to express those parts of
Yeah.
myself,
Me
right?
too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's so incredible.
Mhm.
Um, and then that, actually, I was asked by one of my acting teachers to if I would be interested in heading up a dance movement program at her school. And at the time, I felt completely underqualified and like, why is she asking me? What is this about? But I really, really, really trusted her, and my life at the time was such a mess that I was like, it can't get worse. I can't, I can't get worse. What's the worst that could happen? So I said yes. I started with about 5 students in my garage in January in the cold, and that turned into 10, that turned into 20, and then it moved into a studio. And then, yeah, and then I've been doing that for 10 years. And um, that was, saying yes to that was really just the beginning of this whole journey of healing that happened for me. Um, so yeah, yeah, that's how it started.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What were because I feel, I just resonate so deeply with a lot of the things you say. And for me, there was definitely once I chose, like once I said yes, and like then the path kind of started to unfold, there was so much self-healing that happened that was then transformed into how do I support others or how do I, include this or
Yeah.
like the more that I was able to be embodied and to feel the feelings and create safety and all of those things that we all struggle with and I think need, then the more I am able to teach and to help and support. And so, were there any like things that pop out for you as far as when you figured out something for yourself or was able to begin to
Mm,
process emotions through movement or beginning to feel safety in the body that
mm,
then really helped you
mm.
support others?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, I always joke. I would joke with my students. I'd be like, what I'm teaching you right now is the stuff that I'm learning,
Yeah.
and I'm teaching you this because I need to learn it.
Yep.
and and that's always what was most alive and most present for me, and so most fun for me to teach. And sorry, I'm going to walk over here, my dog is having a moment with our curtains. I'm going to go ahead and let her out. Okay, so yeah, so I at one point as I was teaching movement realized, oh my gosh, everything that's coming out of my mouth as I'm teaching is every book I've ever read, all of my own self-help, all of the things that I voraciously consumed to heal and help myself is
Mm.
now coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, little did I know I was studying and training for this. And
Yeah.
that revelation was like, so I wasn't wasting my time
Yeah.
reading all those books, sitting in those coffee shops, being angsty, writing in my journal. There
Yeah.
was so much, self growth. And I've always been magnetized towards, spirituality and connected to spirit. And that's always something that's been of interest to me. But, and just the heart and healing and all of that. So it was so interesting to then think that I was getting into, movement coaching and or acting movement, movement for actors, thinking, oh, I'm helping these actors, be actors. But really, I was helping. It's a healing modality. I was helping
Yeah.
people. Um, well, I'll just say this: what was happening in those rooms when I was teaching, um, what I thought was just going to be a lot of fun getting into the body and expressing oneself, turned into something so much deeper that I did not anticipate and did not um, plan for. It felt like um, at some point I kind of reached the end of myself, and something else was coming through that was beyond me. What was
Mm.
happening was what these people in this room needed at this time, and it wasn't because I planned it and it was my idea. It
Yeah.
was because these people's bodies had so much wisdom for them, and here in this space this stuff was starting to arrive. And
Mm.
that blew my mind, because I was like, whoa, I didn't know this is what I was walking into.
Yeah.
you know so then it was like learning as I was showing up. It was
Yeah.
like, it's funny, I used to in the beginning of teaching, I was so nervous I would almost like throw up every morning before I went in to teach. I like couldn't keep my breakfast in. And I would have like a plan, like a meticulous plan, like 5 minutes of this, like to the minute, like this minute, these minutes. And it got to a point where I would run into these moments in class where the next thing on my plan did not would not work with what was happening in the room, and I knew it.
Mhm.
And then I would freak out momentarily in my head, and then I just have to let go of my plan, and I'd be like, help, what's next, and I would just like call on the divine, and something would come.
Yeah.
And I I began to learn through desperation to trust those moments of
Mhm.
getting to the end of me. I don't know what the hell to do. And then opening up to what wanted to come. And that's where I got hooked.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, I love how you articulated that because I have felt that. Like I've felt when I can just let go of what I'm trying to do or what I think should happen or what I have had planned, and I can just drop into my body and drop into the other bodies and what is already organically, naturally unfolding in like this relational field, and
Mhm.
just open up to and listen deeply and trust, then it's like you step into like this like magical realm, like this magical place. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell that you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is. It's this magical place I think it's what people feel like in any modality or craft or art, where they're in the flow, like they're in
Yeah.
that creative flow, they're connected to something bigger than them. It's where you just feel so, it feels so right, because it's no longer my ego driving me. It's a surrender instead of a watch this amazing thing I have planned for you.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. Instead, it's like I'm gonna trust that the right thing is that the right thing for this moment and these people is going to arrive in this room, but I have to get out of the way for that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
I've worked with a coach and mentor for about a year, and she was prepping me and teaching me, and we were going through all this stuff, and then at the end she was like, and basically all of this is just so in the moment you can just get out of your own way and just let it flow through you, because that's what
Yeah.
happens. And it's
Oh,
like, whew, it takes a lot of, like, it's that jumping off, it's that trust, it's that just flying, and the more that you do it, the more that it feels um not safe, but like juicy, like,
mm-hmm,
you're more
mm-hmm.
willing to dare and to trust and to follow, and you build that self-knowing. um
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really a relate. You're right. It's the trust part is a huge, huge piece of it.
yeah.
And I think it took me quite some time to fully trust that because I was very much wrapped up in my controlling tendencies. And but then once I tasted it, it was
Hmm.
like, ooh, wait, this
Yeah,
is much more fun.
yeah. This is way better.
Yeah, way less stressful, much more fun. I mean, it's stressful in that moment of I don't know what the hell is next. That is
Yeah,
stressful.
yeah,
But once you start to trust that moment, and practice being in that moment, yeah, then it's oh, something's coming. It's okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so cool. um
Yeah.
I was listening to another podcast that you were on, and you said a couple things that just really blew me away and resonated. And one of the things was, who you really are is in your body, not in your mind,
Mm. Hmm.
when you were speaking about embodiment. And I feel that is so true on my journey, and then also like what I've seen in others. And so I'm curious, like, when you're working with other people, like, do you begin to start to see them become more of themselves, and
Mm.
like what that process is like? Because I love it.
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, oh yes, yes. So, oh man, um, so many of our, we have all these ideas about ourselves, and um, our ego story um, is our comfort zone, right? It's like what we know ourselves to be, and that identity talks a certain way, moves a certain way, wears certain clothes, says certain things, and it's great. It functions for us. It helps us survive in the world. It's nice and lubricated and just kind of can get us through all these things, and
Hmm.
it's a great thing to have. But it's also a limit, right? It also is a container that only allows a certain amount of us, a certain part of us or parts of us to be expressed.
Hmm.
And what happens in movement class, and this is again something I didn't plan, but something I began to see, and then it taught me, you know, what was happening. This is what your class is about, Kristi. This thing. Okay, got it. Um, I would see as people began, first of all, they were given permission, right, in this space to move their body in a way that's outside of that comfort zone, outside of that identity, which, first of all, is extremely scary and has to be so honored because of the courage it takes to move your body in a way that is awkward for you, that is it is risky to that
Yeah.
identity, right? So when you're invited to do this, it you begin to do it, right? You begin to move just beyond that comfort zone. Um, all of the sudden, parts of you arrive that have been there the whole time, but we didn't know it because the story we were telling ourselves is the story of the identity that we've already created, right?
Hmm.
For instance, I'll use my old one. I'm a really nice girl, and I,
Hmm.
am happy and kind, and I work hard, and I'll always be supportive, and blah blah blah, whatever. And if I start exploring movements that are beyond that, that are, what if I explore really fast, quick, angry, could be interpreted as daring, sexy movements that are outside of that good girl,
Mhm.
right? There can be some fear at first. There can be a lot of things, right? A lot of feelings can come up because of the stories we've attached to those parts of ourselves, right? Like, that's not allowed, that's too much. What messages we got as children about those parts of ourselves. So as you expand your body into those movements, you begin to reclaim and give permission to those parts of yourself to come back.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that is incredible. I also feel like you asked me a question and I totally went off on a different I don't know if I even
No.
answered the question.
No, that was it. That was totally it. Like getting to really reclaim and like to get more of you. Like
Yes.
I feel like we're all longing and craving that, right? Like our
Yes.
bodies can feel like that there's a disconnect or a dissonance, or that we're fragmented, or that we're just not, like, everything's just kind of like separate in these little pieces, and we don't really have access to and that's where that idea of like, I want to be whole, right?
Yep.
And it's like, well,
Yep.
it's just getting those parts and feeling them and letting them express.
Yes.
So yeah, no, you answered it beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so well said. That's it. That's the path to wholeness, right? And that's healing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm curious if you've seen some kind of through lines with stuff that comes up, like the blocks, like that when, like, the fear or whatever it is that wakes up, that really gets people stuck, or that is challenging, or some common kind
Hmm.
of shapes or contractions that we hold.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Well, it's really interesting because our fear stories, um, our inner critic stories,
Hmm.
um, as personal as they feel to us, they are universal.
Yeah.
And that is something that, oh my goodness, this work has so taught me because, we usually, in the process of a 4-week session, one of the first things we'll handle or we'll face is our inner critic voice and what it's saying to us. And it's really interesting because as people share those stories, it's all the same stuff,
Hmm.
you're
Yeah.
too much, you're not enough,
Yep.
people are going to laugh at you, you're yeah, you should be more this, you should be more that. It's
Yeah.
all very, very, very similar.
Yeah, the too
And
much and not enough, I feel like
those are
are
the big
like
ones.
those are like the big, like, too whatever, and not
Yes.
whatever.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So these are the big ones, and it's interesting they how they actually imprint in the body, you
Mhm.
know um for a lot of people, I would say the most common places of restriction that I see in the body would be sort of the chest area, the heart center area. Actually, for men, I see that much more.
Yeah, I was just about to ask if there was
Hmm.
a difference between men and
Hmm.
women. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really blessed to have. I mean, I would say maybe 60-40 men, women, men. So I've had a lot of men in my classes, and I think honestly because it was marketed to actors and to help actors, I think interestingly, I think more and more men are getting into this kind of movement work, but I think women really flock to it.
Mhm.
And yeah, but over the years, I think so often in men, the heart center is been really limited in how it's allowed to express,
Yeah.
and that's so sad, first of
Yeah.
all. But that's a really common place of restriction. And then for both women and men, hip area,
Yeah.
right, where like sexual organs are, where creativity and our femininity live. And so really, opening those places up um, has a really profound effect. But every time you begin to move again, like a part of your body in a way that it's not used to being moved,
Mhm.
right away, you release the story, right? The story comes up, and it'll come right up. Oh my gosh, you're not allowed to do that. That's too
Mhm.
much. You're being too sexual. You're being too vulnerable. People are going to see your heart. They're going to yell at you, whatever it is, right?
Right.
So the stories come right up. And that's what's so magical about the body, and why you can move so fast on a healing journey when you access the body, because the stories are right there,
Yeah.
right? If you're sitting in a chair in therapy, you're not moving. So the mind can just tell whatever story it wants to tell over and over again, with, without necessarily connecting to the root, or to the root wound that's actually being held emotionally in the body.
Yeah.
So to me, when you can start to really move your body, those stories are going to come right to the surface, and there's your work, right?
Mhm.
There's what I need to confront, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, the body is such a powerful access point. I mean, I realized that, on my journey because, I too was an actor and I loved having the permission to feel because I was like, I'm allowed to be angry. I'm allowed to be sexual. I'm allowed to be all these things that I'm not allowed to be in life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved into yoga and did yoga training. And there was something about like moving my body on the mat that just felt so healing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went through, talk therapy and like all of the things. And I really began to find like, oh, it's always the body. If I can come back to the
Mm-hmm.
body and let this energy move, and like it doesn't even really matter what the story is anymore if I can just begin to feel and contain
Mm-hmm.
that energy and move with it, and like
Yeah.
all of the things that can happen. And I think it's so cool because we all have one of these. So we all have this
Yeah,
access point. We all have a body. And
absolutely.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
so healing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I don't know about you, like as far as when you discovered how amazing this body is, and as an access point. I love that term. It's really beautiful. But I know for me, so much of my life was really me like dragging my body around and
Mhm.
forcing it to do the things that it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I had such an antagonistic relationship with my body, which I think so many of us do, especially in sort of an imbalanced patriarchal culture, right? Where
Mhm.
intellect and logic and performance are the things that are praised more than, you know, the internal, the nurturing, the connectivity to the feeling part of ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me, so much of my life was like forcing forcing my body to do things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right?
totally.
Be weigh this much,
Mhm.
only eat these things,
Mhm.
exercise like this. I don't care how you feel. You're tired. I don't care. You're going to work anyway.
Yep.
It was pretty much how much can I ignore my body,
Mhm.
um, which of course led to all sorts of physical, emotional, all the problems.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, when you can start to befriend the
Mhm.
body,
Yeah.
um, I mean, the wisdom available there is, I think, I mean, there's a reason why it's body, mind, soul, right? There's a reason why they're put together in the same triad, right? It's
Mm.
not mind over body, and it's not. To me, the body is simply a servant to the soul, but it is not a
Mm.
servant to the mind.
Mm.
It is equal, if not, in my opinion, greater than the mind.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah.
that's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely relate to the dragging the body around. And also
Hmm.
like just being at war. Like I
Yeah,
hated like
yeah,
that like there was like hatred and also deep
absolutely.
distrust. I'm too emotional. I can't trust my emotions. I can't trust what I'm feeling. Like, my body's betraying me because it's, whatever, feeling this way,
Yes.
and especially like being sensitive. It's like I just yeah, just so
Oh,
harsh and mean and like, don't feel that and you should be this way and that way and like what's wrong with you? And yeah, that befriending path is like so important, and building that trust again with no, like this is my experience. This is what's true for me. And
mm-hmm,
letting go of, well, it should be different. It's like, well, this is what is.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, the shoulding. Oh man,
Yeah, the shitting all over. Yeah.
all over the
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
When you were speaking about like the heart center,
Hmm.
and like the hips and stuff, if somebody was listening and they were like, oh my gosh, yeah, I definitely feel like there's
Mm.
probably, I feel like tight there and constricted. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel like ready to like take a movement class. So that seems like
Right.
scary. Like, what would you say to someone who's interested, but has all of those,
Mm.
stories about, I don't think I could do this and what difference would it make and all of that?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's, that's such a, that's, you make such a good point in that sometimes people, I know, can see a movement class or the idea of, oh God, that looks like dancing, or that looks like, whoa, that's way beyond what I feel comfortable with, which I think is, I totally get it and respect. Um, always, when it comes to trying something new or wanting to free a part of yourself that you feel restricted in. One of my recent teachers, she puts it this way. She's like, sip, sip,
Mm,
which means just a little bit
yeah,
at a
I
time.
love
You
that.
don't need to jump all the way in, right? You can just, what if you just joined for 5 minutes of the class and then you went away? Or what if you just watched it? Or what if
Mm,
you just, yeah, what if you just started by breathing into your chest, or even bringing your awareness into that place that's tight? Just that
yeah.
is a sip, and I have to say, I have to admit, I've been really guilty as a teacher, especially when I started out. I was really guilty of often, I think, pushing people too fast too soon.
Mm,
um, it was part of my learning journey to really learn the gentleness necessary, and that everyone is at a different place, on
mm,
this journey, and we all hold different stories and different traumas in our bodies. And so really, it's such an individual, unique journey to each person. So I find that part of the journey is acknowledging that you are the only one who knows what's happening in your own body. You
mm.
are the authority of your body.
Yeah,
No matter who the teacher is, no matter what they're saying to you, you know what feels okay and safe, and you know what doesn't, and how much of that unsafety or discomfort you are ready to step into, and how much you're not, and for how long.
yeah,
So I think really giving yourself the trust, like, that's part of building that trust with your body, is
totally.
I'm not going to force you to jump off the cliff. I'm going to ask you to take 2 steps. That's it. And if we want to go back after that, that's fine. Right? Because we don't befriend our bodies when we force them into something that's totally way beyond, just too far beyond the
Yeah,
comfort zone. Right? We have to just little sips.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that analogy of little sips. And
Mm-hmm.
it's also something that people that we're often not told, like it's that permission piece. Like you have permission to go slow, because a lot of times we join a class and we're like, okay, you gotta push through, like no matter what. And like we have to finish this and everybody else is having this experience. So I'm gonna, push myself to have that. And I
Yeah.
feel when I'm facilitating, like constantly reminding people, like, no, like you know what is right and true for you. And that is all that we are practicing and building here. If you only leave with that,
Yeah.
that is gold. So just listen, and it's moment to moment, because some days it's like, oh, I could take like 5 bigger steps. I could be in my uncomfortable.
Yep.
And like some days it's like, nope.
Mm-hmm.
And then that you're listening to the body and you're honoring it and you're starting to really heal in that relationship. And I've heard you talk about the your relationship, like you with you, which is
Yeah.
something that I speak about all the time. And I think that
Yes.
that's really like, I mean, till death you do you part. Like that's the
Right.
that's the
Yes.
relationship we're in.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much wisdom, and exactly in what you're saying. Absolutely. It's you know, I can speak for myself. I used to, really see the world in such a oriented way, right? Like we have
Yeah.
to get to the top of the mountain. We have to do, check off the list. And no, we don't. We don't do any of that, first of all. And and what's really nurturing, like, yes, it's fun to get to the top of the mountain, yes, it's fun to check off the list sometimes if that list has fun things on it, but whatever, that's a side thing. um but what the thing that I have found that is the most rewarding is the journey, and the relationship you build with yourself on that journey and with your body.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate goal, if there has to be a goal, is is loving and trusting yourself, having a mutually trusting and loving relationship with your body,
Mm,
meaning not only that you trust your body, but that it trusts you,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You being the consciousness that lives inside of it, you being the you know yeah, the god, if you will, within the
Mm,
temple, you know.
mm, yeah.
So yeah, are you being a tyrant to the body, to the temple, or are you being, a loving source,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and being a good parent to like all of the
Mhm.
young parts and pieces that inevitably come up, right? Like you go all get empowered and like, yeah, and all of a sudden it's like shame is here and loneliness is here and it's like, okay, well then that's what I get to relate to today.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
love that too. Yes, the reparenting and, like, yeah, those little sweet parts of us that just need compassion and love and want to be accepted again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I gotta slim it down. Because I could just talk to you all
I
day,
know I could
literally,
do. It's
literally
so
all
fun.
day. So someone following in your footsteps,
Mm.
like me, who I think, I just look up to you so much,
Oh.
who's, on this journey and really loving embodiment stuff and movement and trying to support others. Like what's some advice that you would give somebody just a little bit down the road from you?
Mm. Ooh. Advice. Um, I tell them to be leery of advice.
Yeah.
I tell them, um, yeah, to trust that your light will find its people.
Mm,
It will find, you know, to shine your light and know that that's, you know, being able mm, to do whatever it takes to take care of yourself to the point that you are able to shine your light in a genuine way, right? That your self-care, your healing journey, your the balance of your life is the most important thing, right?
mm,
So that when you shine your light, um, you don't have to worry about, you know, capturing, finding the people that is going to the right people are going to see that. They're going to
yeah.
see it and they're going to come to you,
Yeah.
and just to put it out there,
Mhm.
because I think we we're scared and we question ourselves, and am I ready, am I enough, and all of that stuff. And um I can tell you I can tell you right now, I wasn't ready when I started. I wasn't ready. I didn't think I was enough. I didn't think I was totally imposter syndrome all day. This was not my training. This was not my background. Um, and yet it's kind of what I was always doing
Yeah.
without knowing it. Right. And so that's
Mhm.
where it's kind of, it's just following your path and trusting your journey and your inner wisdom and truth.
Yeah.
Life will
Such a
be the
good answer.
teacher.
Oh, yeah.
Life will tell you when you're maybe that wasn't the right way to go about that. You'll know.
Yeah. Oh. What are some of your personal practices, that really support you and just live in life and daily life?
Mm, these are good. I uh, it's been such a journey for me as a Uber over planner, um, I've really had to, I've done a lot of work to heal the parts of myself that um, need to perform and only feel lovable when I am achieving, a list of 27,000 things a day.
Mm, yeah.
So, oh my goodness, I've come a long way in that. And what really works for me is to have some sacred time at the beginning of the day. And that might be meditating, journaling. Journaling really is one of the modalities I feel rescued me from um, eating disorder, from really was one of the first ways in which I became aware of my own feelings, and
Mm,
that I have feelings and that they matter, you know. So I still journal most days in the morning, and I'll meditate in some way, but I'm not rigid about it like I used to be. I used to be like hour long and timer, and we wake up at 6 a.m. and there's all these right ways of doing everything, and I've really been working on healing the wounded masculine, I call that, right? The
yep.
the parts of our culture that are very like forcing myself to do things instead, to really try to live in this balanced place of the healthy masculine holding a container for things that are good for me, but then allowing the healthy feminine energy of creativity and fun and joy and self-expression and feeling to play within the container. So it
Totally.
so it's not, yeah, so rigid. And I have found that now, I'll do 3 or 4 things on the list, maybe. And but the most important things for me are to move every day in some way, um, and to allow space for myself to feel. So that might mean that I just go be by myself in my room and feel into my body, like what is here. I I don't I really try to tune in to my body and let it express whatever it needs to, and that can look really ugly, and that can look really um, beautiful. But these are, again, like you said earlier, all these little parts of myself that just want to be heard.
Hmm.
Um, and every time I do that, I have the analogy of this like sort of white knight in shining armor who's the healthy masculine. He's holding the space, right? And he's like, you need to go sit in your room and feel. So I'm going to
Mm.
hold this space for you. And then the feminine comes and is like, I have I'm mad at this and I'm mad at, and then like all the allowing these feelings to come however they want to come. Maybe I'm on the
Mm.
floor, maybe I'm dancing, maybe I'm just in my bed crying or in a ball or whatever it is. And then, when I release that, always, there's always some beautiful clarity. Um, so yeah, I would say some sort of spiritual thing, spiritual time, journal time, maybe movement. Um, I try to get outside every day. Um, nature's like just automatic connection to,
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the things I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Nature for me too, and moving my body. And I love that, just having space to feel,
Yes.
like just having that space, and knowing that you can take the time
Yep.
and just let whatever unfolds. Yeah, I love masculine, feminine energies. That's something that
Mhm.
actually really brought me into this work, because I did a workshop that was very much with masculine energy and feminine energy in your body, and feeling how those
Yes.
energies feel, and learning your unhealthy masculine and your unhealthy
Mhm.
feminine, and figuring out how to dance and play with all of it.
Yes.
And so I love that you brought that in, because yeah, for a long time I was very much the unhealthy masculine. Like, you
Mhm.
get up at 5:30, and from 5:30 to 6:30 you do this, and then you take a cold shower, and then you exercise, and you I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God.
I'm only laughing because I so resonate.
Yeah.
I could have the same list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much. And now it's like, no, I just give myself
Uh,
that sacred time in the morning and it looks different and it, unfolds in whatever way it unfolds, but it's listening and having it come from the inside instead of like, I have this list and I have to do what it says. And my value is very much wrapped up in whether or not I
oof.
do these things.
Yep. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, oh, yeah. Don't even get me
Mm.
started on how, it's interesting. I will say this, I'll put a positive spin on this. I really think the world is changing in this way, or I'm seeing more and more people wake up to this. Like, wait a
Mhm.
second. I think COVID was a huge blessing in this way, and that it in the stopping of the train,
Yeah.
that it kind of gave us time to question
Yeah.
how we're showing up in the world, and why do I have to do all these things on this list, and do these things even make me happy, and
Mhm.
what am I doing? where
Yeah.
what is this mountain I'm climbing, and do I even care about what's at the top, and what about what's here now? Like, I do feel like this has given us an opportunity to ask those questions, and yeah, I and heal some of that. For
Yeah.
sure it has for me, I know. And I love hearing that the masculine feminine is how you kind of came into this work. I think that's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's magical, incredible work.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so liberating to learn like, oh, there's so much more possibility within me. There's so much
Mhm.
more, energy that I can work with and just different ways of being with myself. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And I love what you said about I feel like the pause that we were all forced to take really like had people be like, what matters to me? What do I care about? What am I doing?
Yes.
And there was
Yes.
a lot that came from that of like, oh, this is not the life I want to be living. But there's so many
Yep.
people I know, and myself included, that a lot of stuff was like, yep, that's just, we're gonna let
Mhm.
that burn because that's no
Mhm.
longer what I want to do, who I want
Yep.
to be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pause, what a blessing the pause is. And that's why, honestly, so that's like on a macrocosm, right? We had this huge pause. But it's like, okay, how can I pause every day? How can I
Yeah.
pause every day? And I guess that's kind of what I've tried to do by removing a lot of this stuff from the list and these huge expectations, right, of achievement every day. Can
Hmm.
I just, because what feels really good to me is like, being there for myself. And when we take up a pause every day just to check in with the body, then we get to, um, you know, feel into what's true, what's working for me, what's not working for me, what do I need to to feel or express to someone or to myself.
Yeah.
And that just creates a richer life, and again, befriending of the body.
Yeah. And living true to yourself.
Yes.
Like it's everything.
Amen.
Mm.
Amen. Uh-huh.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up with a couple last little lightning round, I guess is what people would call it. But
I love it.
I feel like I could probably talk to you for
Ugh,
a long time.
me too. We are like kindred spirits. We have a
We
lot.
are. I feel
We're
like
on
we're
very
like,
similar path. I
yeah,
love
I
it.
feel like we're estranged sisters. Like in a
Yeah.
Shakespeare play that the twins were like set apart on the islands and we're coming back together.
Yes. Yes. Well, what is that? What Shakespeare play is that where the brother and sister are twins? What is that?
It's because Viola, right?
Viola. Yes.
Um, 12th Night.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so impressed. You
Oh,
remembered
see,
that.
there's that theater
That's good.
degree. Now I'm
There it
putting
is.
it to work.
Ah, that's so good.
Oh,
I'm impressed with that. That's impressive.
thank you.
Mm.
What advice would you give your 12-year-old self?
Oh,
Hmm.
man. I made that sound because that was when I was 12 was when my eating disorder started, and I
Mm.
remember the moment I decided, um, I I have to be the best, and it was from a place of deep heartbreak that I wasn't a boy, and that I wasn't
Mm.
going to ever really be able to play on the real field in sports. Um, So I would tell that little girl that um, I would go so far as to tell her she is a goddess
Mm.
and she is more powerful than she'll ever know,
Mm. Yeah.
and that to trust that and to follow that path.
Yeah. Whew. Making me feel all the feels. My 12-year-old self's like, yes, yes.
I've known it all along. Why didn't you see it?
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, what is embodiment to you?
Mm. Embodiment to me is mm, it's why we're here.
Mm.
We came into bodies to come into bodies. And it's so often misunderstood. It's so often misunderstood to be human. Um, there's so many, spiritual teachers and or the spiritual idea that we should transcend the body, or that the body is something to transcend, when well, then why did we come here? We were
Mm.
spirit before. Why would we come into a body just to leave it again, right? To me, the body is literally why we're here. It's what teaches us. It's here to bring into the physical reality who we really are in spirit. So it is the transcendence to
Mm.
be in a body,
Yeah.
and to bring our divinity into the physicality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good answer. Yeah. And then last, I'm just curious of what you're up to now. Like, what is true for you? What are you currently diving into or dealing with or excited
Mm,
about or moving through? Like, just what is true and
mm,
current for you?
mm. True. What's true and current for me is I'm always learning. I'm really right now. I've been taking a course in somatic embodiment, which has been from a trauma therapist who's a somatic embodiment therapist, and she does such incredible work. Her name is Dr. Linda Tai, and I'm obsessed with her work and the space she holds. I that's Her work is very present to me, and how I can bring it into what I do. And um, I'm in this vulnerable stage of rebranding what I'm doing, so I can bring it to the world in a way that is accessible, to not just the physical in person, classes. And I've been experimenting with like YouTube and videos and everything since COVID happened. So yeah, I'm just experimenting with the possibilities in that realm, um, and really just learning um, a lot about how to. Mm, so many lessons happening. um, to really learn how to be in in relationship, um uh, in the present moment, not bringing past traumas and stories into
Mm.
relationships, and transferring them onto, for instance, my husband or the people I'm with, to really be present um, with what's really happening, and not coming from my place of woundedness.
Mm.
And that's a big one. And then also, again, this sort of marriage of the masculine and feminine, and the healthy versions of both. And um, that, I feel like, is probably, that'll be a lifelong practice for me.
Mm. Yeah.
But that's been so healing. And what woke me up to the need for that was how clearly I could see the wounded masculine in the world,
Mm.
and point at it and blame it for so much of the misery of my own and the world's. But then realizing that the humbling realization that I'm only seeing that because it's inside of me, and the deep need to heal that within myself,
Mm. Yeah.
so that I'm not putting that out in the world or part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Whew.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big,
That's a big
I'm sure,
one.
a lot of things.
Well, and I'm curious just a little bit about, because I really resonate with the relationship about not
Mm-hmm.
bringing in like the past
Mm-hmm.
wounding and bringing the past into the present. What
Mm-hmm.
is like one piece around that that's been really supportive for you, or that you find really works in the moment or in a practical way with your partner?
Yeah. Um, getting the biggest thing is getting in touch with what I need and being honest with myself about my needs. Um, Part of the wounding for me is there's definitely wounding around speaking my needs.
Mm.
Um, that's the vulnerability of that and not trusting that that will be met. And so, therefore, disowning or not even being aware of my own needs and then expecting the other person.
Are you reading my mind right now? It feels like you're reading my mind.
I didn't tell you I'm telepathic. Yes, I am. No, just kidding. I yeah, expecting the other person to somehow know, and then when they don't, to get furiously angry and defensive and project all sorts of, you know, unsafe stuff onto that person.
Mm.
When, I think, this is a wounded feminine, right? The martyr, the victim, right? Is, you know, that's very present, especially in a world where the wounded masculine is very present, right? So
Mm.
the wounded feminine arrives where, right? How does she get her needs met? Oh, okay, by manipulating or finding ways to not tell the truth and finding ways to get her needs met without really being honest or whatever that is.
Yeah.
So for me to like actually get in touch with, okay, this is the need, and to then cleanly ask for that,
Mm.
that's a grown-up task that I'm definitely working.
Yes. Yeah, that is an edge for me. And then to be met in that, and then to be
Yes.
like, then receives my word for 2021, because yeah, whew, receive.
Such a good word. Yes. It's a it's dangerous. It feels dangerous in the body to receive
Yeah, it does.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, because you're not protecting yourself. You're not,
Nope.
you're open
You're
and
open.
vulnerable, and you have to be deserving, and all that, there's a
Uh,
big worthiness piece as well, and all that, and
uh,
receiving, and yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
But I love that, tuning into what you need, because
Hmm.
oftentimes it took me a long time to even know what the heck I needed. So like
Oh
giving
yeah.
yourself time to first, for you, find out, okay, what is the need?
Yeah.
And then to speak it
Yes.
clearly out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
how many of our unconscious behaviors come from these unmet needs
Yeah.
that then we go about getting in ways that are not really fair or straightforward, you know, for the other person. They can't really meet us when we don't speak. And
Mhm.
so yeah, this is a big one for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so much juicy stuff. Thank you. Thank you so
Hmm.
much. Is there any last things you wanted to say, or any other questions that I didn't ask that you want to speak into, or
Oh
anything else?
man. No, I just had such a fun time. This was such an elevated, fun conversation. You really hold such a beautiful space. And
Mm,
like, I
thank
just
you.
feel really joyful about it. And it was so heart filling. So thank you
Mm,
for letting me be here. It's
yeah,
awesome.
of course. Come back anytime. I could talk to
I
you
would love to.
anytime. It's like talking to a different version of me. Like I
Yes.
see myself reflected in so many beautiful ways, and like it's
Yes.
so, like you said, heart filling. Like I feel very full.
Me
Yeah.
too. Me
Hmm.
too. We'll definitely have a part two, or yeah, and so on for sure.
Yeah, and so on and so on. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
of course. Thank you too. All the best.
Yeah, have a beautiful rest of your day and weekend and all of that. And yeah,
I will. You too.
thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, sweetie.